Let's move on to rugby. Obviously, the Grand Slam this weekend is on the cards for Ireland. It promises to be one of the great Saturday afternoons of Irish sport, with the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championships on in Croke Park and, of course, the Grand Slam decider at Twickenham. Ahead of that, Sean Cronin has been speaking to Oisin Langan about what it's like to play for Joe Schmidt.
Sure, I'm going to have to say he's the best coach in the world. His results speak for themselves, and 3 championships in 5 years is incredible, and he's a great support staff behind him, and he's top quality. He's obviously been involved with Joe for a long time with Leinster and Ireland, and he's you're kind of, I've heard other guys say, like, when you do make a mistake in a game, you're kind of thinking during the game even about the review on Monday morning. So it's not many coaches that can put that kind of we'll say motivational fear into you. So he's obviously top quality, and he, down through the years, he's been producing teams and results that are of the highest quality.
It's interesting that comes up, right? And it comes up in that context about fear and about how the team are already conscious of making a mistake because it's going to crop up in the Monday morning analysis section. And I understand that, it's spoken about as a positive, right? Like, what this has done is made sure that everybody is ruthless and doesn't make mistakes and they become efficient. And that's great. But is there a downside to that?
Of course there's a downside to that. Of course there is a downside to playing with fear. But does that actually manifest itself? I'm not so sure. Like, does Jacob Stockdale get into his 2 interception try positions if he's terrified that he's not going to catch the ball?
Stockdale's 2021, so I think I actually think that it's the Sean Cronins of the world who have the potential to, who've been through it and who've been humiliated. I suspect that Stockdale hasn't been screamed at in the way that other people have been screamed at later on in their career.
Stockdale definitely knows what goes on if things go wrong. He definitely knows that he's going to get some variation of a hairdryer treatment or something like that. I'm sure it's not as vocal as a hairdryer treatment, but certainly a fairly public video session with all his teammates there if he makes a mistake. Plus, he's a young guy, plus he might be more susceptible to having a big setback as a result of a lack of confidence. I don't think it manifests itself to the level that people might think, that it does lull them into a sense of fear, because I know he's clearly a supremely confident player at this moment, because he's had an unbelievable start to his national career.
Don't focus just on Stockdale, right? So that's one player who maybe doesn't have that. But in terms of overall patterns and your willingness to take a risk when there's a 50-50 ball on, which is going to win or lose a match, I guess you're not going to lose those games, but you might not win them, is the thing.
I don't know. I think if you look at Ireland's patterns of play over the last couple of years, say since the World Cup in 2015, just basic things like offloading. I don't have the statistics to hand, but it certainly seems like we're offloading a lot more. That certainly seems like a team who are a lot less afraid to make mistakes.
All right. Okay, Devin Toner also speaking. In a game, obviously as close as we expect this game to be, we haven't beaten England in Twickenham since 2010. They haven't lost a game, I think, in 6 years at home in the Six Nations. So Lineout's obviously going to be crucial. Devin Toner also has been facing the media. Here he is talking to Oisin.
Devin, can you give us an insight into preparing for calling lineouts during a game? Tell us about the kind of work you do both on the training pitch and off the training pitch.
Yeah, it's mostly done off the pitch. To be honest, there's a lot of video work, a lot of analysis. You got to obviously study them and study us and see what you've done before and what you need to do. So you come up with a menu for the week, and you'd obviously memorise that and see what you have. And then it's just obviously come down to practice during the week when we into match situations and try to practice. And then I obviously have that menu in your head for different scenarios. And then when a call is called in the game, you're coming up against a defence, and you first of all, you don't really know. You have an idea of what they're going to do, but they might change it up in the game. So it's a matter of kind of changing on the run then. So you do have different calls out there. I'm not going to be saying the menu, but yeah, no, it's all about kind of adapting when you're out there. To be honest, adapting to the different defence that they put in front of you, and able to come up with that. Yeah,
is one of the difficulties, particularly for this game coming up, that A, it's an absolutely massive game, so maybe that heaps a bit more pressure on it. B, the noise will be phenomenal. Actual communications will be quite difficult.
Yep. Yeah, you know, you're right. You kind of saw it in the Stade de France as well. It's quite a loud stadium there. So like sometimes you might have like hand signals or calls. So I think it's just a fact of when you're in the line, you just gotta have your ears open. You gotta be listening out and try and drown out everything you can, and then just work off them triggers. To be honest, but yeah, no, it will be a difficult situation. Yeah, but it's what you practice for.
Yeah, big game for Big Dev. Is he going to start?
No, it's going to be James Ryan and Ian Henderson. It's strange that somebody will be wheeled out in front of the media if they're not starting, but sure, Sean Cronin's not going to start either. Jack McGrath was also in front of the media. Potentially 3 people who aren't going to start. Rumours yesterday that McGrath was going to start. Well, that would be down to Healy's fitness, obviously, wouldn't it? Oh, well, no, I think that actually it's just like he's happy that the impact of Healy off the bench is going to be something that he wants in the last half hour, and that McGrath's pushing him. So McGrath and Henderson was the rumour yesterday. Yeah. Now look, it's early in the week. The proper rumours should start coming out today, though. It's nothing to do with Jack McGrath. I think it's a ludicrous decision if Cian Healy is fully fit to leave him on the bench, given the season he's having, given the Six Nations he's having. He's been absolutely sublime. The thing is, he might just be 80%, maybe even 90% fit. There's a justification that you leave him on the bench because, you know, you're going to need to get 50, 60 minutes out of him if he starts, at least. So there is that argument. But if he's 100% fit, which I guess I do doubt, then, you know, you've got to start Cian Healy. Like, is there really an argument to be made that Cian Healy isn't their number one choice in that? Just Jack McGrath's sensational, you know? He is. That's what I'm... As I said, it's nothing to do with Jack McGrath. This is to do with Cian Healy. And, like, once you're on a rising stock, you stay with that rising stock until you see signs of it slowing down. Other than the little fitness speed bump, there is no sign of there being a crash in the Cian Healy economy. Fair enough. He's been pretty good. Willie John McBride also on the show last night. Here he is talking about threats to his life during the Troubles.
You know, not only was I a target, but at that particular period, I was a bank manager, and that was bad enough in those days. But so you were always sort of aware of what was going on around you. And they were not pleasant days, there's no question about that. But I can remember at one period over that, I remember going, I think it was first of all to England, and there was some sort of threat on my life, and I remember that I had security. I also had security in Scotland, and then I had security in Dublin as well. Right. So there was periods, but, you know, I was one of those people who said, look, you know, I've got to try and live a normal life.
That's not an easy thing to do when you're...
I wasn't aware that I had any enemies or that, you know... And I remember saying to one of the security guys who was with me, saying, how real is this? And he said, I don't know. We don't know. We never know how real it is. So they were not easy days. No, and you weren't taking any risks in the Troubles either, that some madman with a gun wasn't going to come for you. You forget really how screwed up our country was for a long period of time. Yeah, exactly. And I think you kind of forget as well just the proximity of it all, especially those people, you know, living in Dublin. It's like, that was essentially a different country. It's like, it was up the road. Yeah. It was up the road. And the kind of pervasiveness within sport is completely messed up, really. And when you look at it on a very basic level, the whole idea of Grand Slams not being potentially completed because teams wouldn't travel to this country all seems very, very trivial when you hear Willie John kind of speak like that. Yeah, and also just how complacent we've all become that that can never happen again. And this is why Brexit actually matters to our country as well.